Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
Welcome to Think Big with Dan Qasim, and our guest today is Miles. So Miles, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us where you live and what you do.
Sure thing. Thank you, Dan. My name is Miles, and I am from Minneapolis, Minnesota, and my company is M2H Mental Health, a nonprofit for men's mental health.
So I'm curious more about your nonprofit. How exactly do you help men, and what gave you this idea to go and start this nonprofit?
Yeah, I guess I'll start with the second question first, then you can kind of have a base rundown of how things started. So for me, it started around college, my sophomore year, which was COVID times, 2020. All my life, I didn't really struggle with mental health too much until around then. I was basically up in Duluth, Minnesota, going for my marketing degree, and was all alone up there and started to struggle with my own problems. And I kind of did what most guys do, is I kind of sat in them and didn't really do anything to change. And that whole next year was really probably the worst year of my life. And throughout that time, I finally started talking to some friends and some family and really started to get better within my own mental health. But I realized that I'm also blessed in a sense where I have friends and family that I can trust within talking about these things. And some guys out there really just don't have that. So wrote up a little business plan back in junior year of college and put it to the side until I graduated. And then right after I graduated, I kind of had that decision where, do I want to go all in on this, or do I want to, pursue the marketing sales career? And I kind of just decided, screw it, I'm just going to go in on this and see what happens. And that's kind of how things started, I would say. That was about August of 2022 is when I first started to get the things rolling within M2H. We launched in March of 2024. So we've only been really up and running for a short period of time, but things have been going well so far. And then how we service people right now is through a chat, which has been our first kind of service that we provided here this year. And it's been a chat that's currently right now through Discord, where guys can come in, talk to people on my team, talk to people in the community about whatever they really have going on. It's a lot more support based than going to therapy or going to, calling or going to a psychologist or something like that. So it's really just guys connecting with each other, sharing their experiences and trying to better themselves within their own mental health.
That's awesome. So essentially it's like a Discord group chat, or is it sort of one-on-one? What does that process look like?
Yeah, so to join, really it's best way is, maybe people have a Discord, they're seeing this, so they already have one, and then they can just look up our chat. But the best way is just through our website, which is M2HmentalHealth.com. And basically, you click the link and you'll join right into our chat. When you get in, it's basically, you'll see a bunch of different chats that you can hop into. One's like a general. One is, there's people that might be struggling with depression, so you can hop in there and talk with people that might be struggling with the same thing. Or you can direct message, one of my team members, or even somebody in the community too. You might, run into somebody who's going through the exact same scenario as you, and you're looking through chats and you see a guy that's struggling with a breakup that happened last week, and you just had the same thing happen, So there's a lot of different ways that you can connect down there and talk about what's going on and grow in your mental health.
That's awesome. And I guess as of right now, right? Obviously you're based in Minnesota. Is that where most of your customers are, or are they kind of all across the country? Where do you kind of see people logging into your platform?
I would say mostly in Minnesota just for now, just because we're so new, and primarily most of my connections are from there. So, in that area, that's the most that we've done our marketing and our events and such. So definitely have the most people from Minnesota. I have seen a couple people from all over the states, a couple from even Texas I've seen, and other places as well, but primarily Minnesota at the moment. But with Discord and our chat, it gives that availability that anybody can really join. I think even people out of the US can join, if I'm not mistaken.
That's awesome. And so I guess in terms of these conversations, I feel like sometimes people, struggle sharing certain things in a group setting. So how do you kind of encourage that, to people to be just more open about things, and especially men? I think sometimes that we're kind of, it's like a taboo to even talk about these issues. So yeah, what does that look like for you?
For me personally, I struggle with the same kind of things that most guys struggle with, with sharing. Like I said, in that year time frame, I really just was say anything about what was going on in my mental health. So I think one of the big things is that, finding that person that you trust, like there's always, whether it's a friend, your brother, your family member that you really trust, maybe it's a cousin, to really start to open up with at first. You can find that person. And once you really start to do it for the first time and you start really just talking about what's going on, it gets easier and easier as time goes on. So I would say first step, find that friend. And then, if you really don't feel comfortable with, you want to stay anonymous or something, that's kind of what our chat is for. You can hop in, don't have to share your name really. You can make your name Zing Dan, and they're not going to really know. Well, maybe I would, but
Maybe that,
yeah.
yeah.
But most of the people in there aren't going to know who you are, and kind of gives you that freedom to just share what you want to share anonymously. And I would say those are the kind of the first steps that you can take, though.
Yeah, so essentially it's sort of like Reddit from the standpoint of the anonymity, but it's, obviously it's more of like a live chat, obviously. And, it's people that actually can go in the chat and help each other. So that makes more sense that there is that level of, being anonymous, which I think is probably a challenge sometimes where people are, hey, like, do I really want to share this publicly with people, as opposed to this way, there's like sort of a blockade between who they actually are, which I think definitely adds more value, makes more sense.
For sure.
And then in terms of, like you mentioned that you had some events to kind of like get the word out, what does that look like for you? Like, what kind of like, events have you had, or how have you kind of gotten like the word out besides just reaching out to your network?
Yeah, so we've had 4 events over the last year. Our first one was kind of more of like a fundraising and I guess outreach event, which was pretty simple. And that was just, bringing a lot of people within Minneapolis area, talking about what we are, what we're trying to do in the area, and, spreading the word of our organization. And with being a nonprofit, of course, fundraising is big. So that was definitely a main part of our event as well. The other ones so far, or this last year that we've done, were a lot of more of community outreach. So we did an event at a Twins game where we had a section off for us, and we were, obviously some of our friends were there, but then some people that we weren't really as close with were there to support us, which was cool. And we were able to talk with people at the Twins game and stuff and spread the word on social media about it. Similar to those ones we've done throughout the year. We just had one up in northern Minnesota, actually, which was kind of like a holiday type event. And it was with a couple different other businesses. So people would come around and talk about what we are. And we'd also have food for them and some other things to give away. So that was really cool. But yeah, so far the events have been awesome for us, just to see, the support coming from men's mental health and people really passionate about what we were doing.
That's awesome. And so, obviously that you just launched recently, as of now, it's more like a Discord chat, but like, what is your vision for this nonprofit? Do you want to keep it like a Discord chat? Do you want to do other things? Like, what do you kind of view as like the best way? Because obviously it's like, it seems like your mission is obviously helping men with mental health. There's various ways to kind of go about that. So what do you kind of see for your nonprofit, let's just say like the next couple of years or so?
Yeah, I mean, with the entrepreneurial type of mindset that I have, I always have massive goals in a sense where I want to go with this thing, and I probably overshoot what I could possibly do in a 2-year time frame. But outside of the chat, I do think the chat could be something that becomes really big. And there's ways that I want to expand on it, like having like video meetings and stuff with a bunch of guys where we talk about specific things, or more one-on-one calls and stuff that I'd like to expand on in the future. But there's a lot of other ways that I want to help out the men's mental health community. And I think that it'd be great to have more of in-person and group setting type of events. I would love to go into businesses. I know that there's businesses all around the world that there's guys that are just kind of stuck in a rut where they're at work, and it's causing influence in their other parts of their life within family or other settings or kids or something. And I think it would be great to go into those businesses, whether it's, even a local police station or something, and talking about men's mental health, or it could be as big as a, huge Gander Mountain facility or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of ways that we can expand on it in the future. And, with men's mental health, I feel like people always think of it, men's mental health is all mental health, but in a sense, like men's health and mental health go hand in hand. So there's areas that we can get into and the health space as well. One of the
Yeah.
big things we preach is, just getting outside, being active, and, more holistic ways to mental health. So there's so much that we can do in the future for M2H.
For sure. And you mentioned earlier, right, that you had an event like at a Twins game. Do you see maybe some partnerships with sports teams down the road as well?
For sure, that's definitely a goal of mine. We haven't had one quite yet, but I'm hoping that as we're kind of building relationships with, doing these events at certain games and getting connected with, that would be something that is a dream for mine for sure. I know that there's a lot of nonprofits that are connected with NFL teams, NBA, NHL. I've seen it all. I've seen stuff with NFL where they're doing cleats and stuff for nonprofits or foundations. I'd love to be a part of something like that in the future. So definitely an area that I want to be a part of for sure.
That's awesome. And obviously that you've been doing this for about a year now. So if you could go back in time to before you got started, what is the one biggest piece of advice that you wish you knew?
I would say just outreach and communication. When a lot of times, especially in the nonprofit or I guess any business space, you start at going to these networking events and talking to people about your business. You might meet somebody who, doesn't even fit your business at all. Maybe for me, obviously it's mental health, nonprofit space. Maybe he works in accounting at US Bank or something like this, and you meet him at first and you're like, oh, maybe this guy isn't really the right guy to talk to. But the more people you talk to, the more, people that you're meeting and talking about your business. A lot of times, even if they're not in the same space, they might have somebody else who they know who could really help out your business in the long run. So that's kind of the biggest advice that I would have for people out there is, especially as like a young entrepreneur, I was kind of nervous to, start networking with people and outreaching with people and stuff. And once I really started to dive into that, it seemed like things just started piling on, going much better from there on. So that would probably be my biggest.
That's good advice. Yeah, I think definitely. I mean, like a lot of people early on, especially if they're younger, maybe have trouble. I think it just even regardless of age, people just sometimes struggle with like putting themselves out there. So, I think it's super important what you mentioned. And also like, obviously going to events. Like I've gone to events and sometimes like, oh, like this event really worth my time. All these people may are not in the right vertical. But to your point, it only takes like one connection. You can meet somebody who might have like a family member or might know somebody that can actually like, put you on this path. Like it just all it takes is one introduction and then it can change your business forever. Right. So it's just, yeah, it's important to kind of put yourself out there and have those conversations. So I guess on that note, if somebody's watching this right now and if they wanted to reach out to you, do you mind sharing your website or social media? I guess best ways to get in contact.
Yeah, I would say a website is going to be the easiest. We'll have all of our links. We also have like a self-help resources page on our website, so you can kind of go through certain areas that you might be struggling with on the mental health side and learn just some basic tips and stuff on how to better yourself. So our website, www.m2hmentalhealth.com, pretty simple. And then all of our social media links are the same. It's at M2H Mental Health. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn. Those are our main ones right now. We have one video on YouTube, but that's basically our intro to the organization's video. So not too much on there. I would say those are the main ways of contact. If you wanted to hop into our chat, right when you go onto our website, there'll be a pop-up too that has the link to our chat. Pretty easy to hop in. So yeah, I'd say those are the best ways to really get connected with our organization. We also have a volunteer spot on our website as well. Always love to have volunteers helping us as us being a nonprofit for sure.
That's super cool. Miles, best of luck and thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you, Dan.
Of course.